good morning. It's Saturday the 20th of June. It's actually Midsummer's Day today. In fact, it's only just gone midnight, so it really is very early morning. I'm just setting off on a 200-kilometre DIY ride. Due to the coronavirus lockdown, I didn't do any cycling through March and about half of April, and then when the lockdown restrictions eased, I started building up my endurance, and I noticed how much fitness I'd lost. I started off with a 50-kilometre ride, then a couple of 150 rides, and then eventually I did a 200-kilometre DIY randonnee. Exactly the same as a DIY Audax, except it's not validated. I even worked out the time allowances to make it feel like a DIY Audax. And the first DIY randonnee 200 was actually quite hard. I faded a lot in the last hour or so, made me realise how much fitness I'd lost. So I've done 4 so far, and tonight is an all-night ride. Now coming into the centre of Bristol on the Bath to Bristol cycle track, and I'm right by these big blocks of flats. I always refer to this as Nelson Mandela House. The story goes, in the latest series of Only Fools and Horses on television, it became so popular they had to stop filming the outside location shots in London. Too many people turned up and disrupted filming, so they would come down to Bristol. And if you notice in the later series, this is Nelson Mandela House. And there's lots of shots around here as well. While they were down here, they filmed at Weston-super-Mare, you can spot that. As I pass here, I always think of that scene where there's riots outside Nelson Mandela House, and Del and Raquel drive through in their Capri gear, and they all stop to let it through, almost like Moses going through, and then the moment he passed, the rioting continues. As I leave Bristol, the GPX track is very, very complex looking, and sometimes you've got to make instant decisions when there's traffic or people around. One of the tips I would pass on is I just follow the signs here for Ashton Gate House, because that's where I'm heading. What I'm doing at the moment is avoiding this really busy road, so I'll zigzag across it a couple of times and then ride alongside it before I turn off to Long Ashton. It's coming up to 2 AM, but actually the middle of Bristol was actually quite busy. There was a few cars and people wandering around. Not drunks, anything like that, just people who look like they're out for a walk. I think the lockdowns just changed people's habits completely. I even saw people playing football on the bike track, believe it or not. Here we are at the end of that really complicated, wiggly GPX track, right opposite the turning for Long Ashton. I went under 3 subways, across a footbridge, up a no-through road, which has actually got a track at the end of it, a bike can get through. And I may make it sound really easy, I can assure you I got lost several times. And I figured, look, there's all these pavement signs taking you up to Ashton Court Gate, right opposite the turning I want. Why on earth not just use those instead of relying on the GPX? And that's what I've done ever since. 5 to 3 on a short stretch of the A370 just south of Hutton. Worth noting, there's a 24-hour garage here. There's even a few local lads on bikes trying to get some food. It's counter service by the look of it. That's worth remembering. It's just gone 3 AM and I'm on a series of lanes heading through Puxton with its sloping towered church, the wonky church as I call it. I always class this as the very northern Somerset levels. In fact, I'm on a bridge across the Rhine, or Rhine, however you pronounce it. The bridge over the Rhine. Looking back, if I turn my headlight off, you may see the sky is more blue and purple than black. There's the orange bands of the pre-dawn. Whenever possible, I try and time my rides to coincide with the solstice, the winter solstice or the summer solstice. This time of the year, I just love the very short nights. As I said, just gone 3 a.m. and dawn's approaching already. I quite often look at these videos back in the winter and think, oh wow, I remember those days when it's freezing cold or icy outside. It's now 3:45 in the morning and I'm at the top of Hutton Hill, the only real hill of any significance on this ride. And to give you a perspective of where it is, that's all the lights of Weston-super-Mare over there. So I'm skirting behind the back of Weston-super-Mare, where I'll be heading south down towards Glastonbury, the final leg. If you look at the profile of this ride, it's quite strange. This is the only hill of any significance whatsoever. It's no more than about 200 yards up and 200 yards down. But when you look at it in context of the profile of the whole ride, it's just like a small pimple. In fact, the highest points of the ride are sections of the Bastard Bristol bicycle track, which follows an old railway line, which you would think would be fairly flat. I'll edit a picture of the profile in to show you what I mean. It's 4:30 a.m. now. I'm at my rest stop at Brent Knoll Village Hall. Quite often stop here. There's some seats, there's even some toilets around the corner. I won't be using those due to the COVID-19 outbreak. There's even a seat underneath an overhang. It's been a few drops of rain. So a little bit about my precautions. See, I've got some food there ready to have. I've bought all my own food. My fluids are doing fine. I may not even need to buy more. I've got tissues for anything, anytime I touch anything like doors or gates or anything. Wet wipes, I'm constantly wiping my hands down, and some hand sanitizer. As I said, I don't really mix with other people, so social distancing is not an issue. So doing these rides, I do feel I'm being as responsible as possible. So Brent Knoll Village is actually the location of a knoll, Brent Knoll in fact. So a knoll is just like a big lump in the landscape, a bit like Glastonbury Tor or Borough Mount. There's quite a lot around Somerset. I guess it's some sort of geological uplift. But I actually prefer both Borough Mount and Brent Knoll for walking on, a bit less commercialised and busy than Glastonbury Tor. Whenever you go by Glastonbury Tor, there's always people up there. I've ridden by at 3 o'clock in the morning and seen lights up there. I've heard it said that John Wesley would go up onto Brent Knoll to get inspiration for his Methodist sermons. I mentioned at the start of the film, I've been riding DIY randonees. They're almost exactly like DIY Audaxes, except there's no points allocated, because Audax UK has closed down their system until August the 1st, and even then they're only opening up gradually. So to regain my fitness and motivate me to get out the door, I've been just basically riding the equivalent of a DIY Audax, except calling them randonees. I even work out the time allowances as well. So if you're not sure how to do that, all you do is you find your total distance in kilometres and divide that by the minimum speed requirement. You'll find that in the Audax regulations. So the minimum speed requirement for a 200 is 14.5 kilometers an hour, so just divide say 205 kilometers, whatever it is, by 14.5 and you'll come up with something like 14 points, and you'll get a big decimal fraction. The way you convert that into minutes is you just stick a 0 in front of it, so instead of 14 you'll have 0 point whatever the decimal fraction is, so 25467. Just take the first 3 digits and multiply it by 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, and you'll come up with something like 18 or 27, 36, whatever, and that'll be your minutes. Another little mind trick I use, I just alter the context of things, and it's amazing what a difference it can make. You'll notice I never talk about time limits, because if you think about it, a limit is restrictive straight away, and it can sort of like put you into that sort of restrictive mindset. So I just alter it into a time allowance, and that way I feel I'm turning a liability, there's something that's working against me, into an asset that's working in my favour. And yeah, you've still got to manage the time, but sometimes I'm going to run out of time, or sometimes I'm going to be behind schedule, and you feel that you may have to claw it back somehow, but at least that way you feel you're in control of it. You'll see it's very light out already. You may hear the bird song everywhere. Midsummer's Day. It's actually quite grey, overcast. There's a few spots of rain in the air. I was going to ride this tonight. In fact, I was going to set off at 9 p.m. tonight, because the solstice is actually at 10:44 p.m. I was going to ride through it. I was going to start in spring and finish in summer, but the forecast is for quite heavy rain during the night, and I just thought not worth it. So I brought it forward a day, and then I thought, well, why bother setting off at 9 o'clock? That was why I set off at just after midnight. I gave myself 3 hours of sleep before setting off, so I actually don't feel sleep deprived at all. I may on the way back, who knows. I'll probably go to bed when I get home as well. I always think of sleep deprivation as taking out a loan. You're borrowing energy and time from your future, and just like a loan, it's got to be repaid at some point. So I always try and repay my sleep debt as quickly as possible to get back into balance. It normally takes about 3 or 4 days. I'm passing through the last village before Glastonbury, the village of Mayor. Just stopped here to show you this. This is the ancient Abbot's Fish House. It's where the monks of Glastonbury used to hang their fish to dry. God, I bet it's stunk in there. You may say, what's a fish drying house doing in the middle of nowhere? Well, all the Somerset levels is reclaimed land. That's what all the irrigation systems for, the rhines, the reens, the drains. This would have once been very close to the coastline, surrounded by marshes and bog. Very atmospheric, isn't it? It's 10 to 6. I should be in Glastonbury by 6. I'm not passing through Glastonbury town centre as I normally do. Because of this deviation down to the 24-hour garage, I'm skirting round and doing a little loop down towards Street. When I've finished that circuit, I'll be rejoining this road in a different direction. So I'm heading that way now. I'll do my circuit and then head back that way, retrace my route back to Bath. I'm on the final approach to Glastonbury now. You may see the tor just in between those 2 trees, stood right over the River Brew. It was at this location on a 400 when I was doing my super randonnee around the year in December of 2015. I came across a starling murmuration here quite by chance. I'd seen them so often on programmes like Spring Watch, they're quite amazing to see, but I was literally right underneath it here. And this lady, we were stood at that star there watching it, and she had lots of specialist photographic equipment. She knew a lot more about it than me. She wasn't here by chance. She was telling me a lot of facts and figures. I think she estimated it as being 30,000 birds, and they just kept sort of going around in circles and coming over us. And I have to say, witnessing it that close, the thing that really blew me away was the sound rather than the vision, the flapping of all the little wings. I just can't put into words the sound of it. It left such a big impression, and that's my main memory of it was visually very spectacular, but it was just the sound, and that's something you never get on these amazing twilight shots on programmes like Spring Watch and Autumn Watch. It's 6 AM and I'm just coming into Glastonbury. You can see the Tor right in front of me. There's even people up there this time of the morning. Zoom in and see if we can spot that. This is where I do my diversion down to the 24-hour garage, so I'm going to head down here, avoid Glastonbury Centre, then bear over that way towards Street and do a big loop and come round and rejoin this road about half a mile up there. As you come down this road, you pass by what used to be all the old leather and shoe factories, and this is the site of the old railway station, as you can probably gather beyond there. And that red brick building right in front of us, I think I'm right in saying that's the old station master's house. Still skirting around the fringes of Glastonbury. In fact, this is Torview Avenue, and this probably is a giveaway why it's called that. Right in front of us, look. Quite a few people up there by the look of it. I've dropped off that ridge and I'm now down on the levels. I'm crossing the River Brue, looking back at Glastonbury Tor. Had to be done, didn't it? Midsummer's Day, Glastonbury Tor. I've finished my circuit of Glastonbury Street. In fact, I've just come up that road from behind me and I'm back on this road that runs alongside the River Brue, heads up towards Mere that way. Because I've been filming quite a lot and chatting this morning, I've used nearly half my time allowance on half the distance. I'm not too bothered. As I explained earlier on, that's why I calculate the time allowances, because the further you get into the ride, the more you can evaluate and gauge them. I now know on the way back I'm pretty much going to ride non-stop. I may stop and have a snack at Brent Knoll as I did on the way down, but other than that, no more filming until I get back to Bath. Looks like I've got a tailwind on the way home, so next stop Bath. Here we are, back on the outskirts of Bath. I'm about 2 miles from home and it's about 20 to 12, so I've got back with 2.5 hours in hand. Before I sign off, happy Solstice. This will be going out on YouTube after the solstice, but as usual, thanks so much for watching and until next time.